In July 2020, for a routine morning patrol along the Arizona-Mexico border led to the most significant corruption scandal in North American history, a retired DEA agent, following nothing but instinct and decades of experience, stumbled upon a carefully concealed cartel plane buried in the Sonoran Desert. But what seemed like just another drug runner's crash turned into something far more sinister hidden. Within that wreckage wasn't the usual cargo of drugs or weapons, it was something the cartels and corrupt officials on both sides of the border would kill to keep buried evidence of a vast criminal network reaching from Mexican state houses to the halls of Washington, D.C. The discovery would eventually lead to the arrest of 2 Mexican governors, 4 congressmen, dozens of high-ranking officials, and expose $2 billion web of corruption, murder, and international conspiracy. This was the story of how one man's discovery in the desert sand brought down an empire of corruption that had seemed untouchable, but bringing this truth to light would come at a devastating cost, forcing good men and women to decide what price they're willing to pay for justice. Some said James Hawkins should have left that plane buried in the sand. Others called him an arrow. But as the bodies started piling up and the threats hit closer to home, one thing became clear: this wasn't just about drugs anymore. This was about power, about money, and about the thin line between law and corruption that runs through the heart of music. Nations, before we jump back and tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The morning sun cast long shadow across the Sonoran Desert as James Hawkins guided his horse along the familiar trail 30 years where the DA had taught him to trust his instincts, and something about the desert felt wrong today. The wind had shifted the sand overnight, revealing patterns that shouldn't be there. "Easy, girl," he muttered, pulling gently on the reins. His horse's ears twitched forward, sensing his tension. The tracks were subtle, the kind most people would miss. But Hawkins hadn't spent 3 decades chasing cartels through the desert to miss something like this. He dismounted, his boots crunching on the sand. His phone buzzed. Linda's face appeared on the screen. "Dad, you promised you'd stop with the morning patrols. Just exercising the horse, sweetheart, right? And I suppose you accidentally packed your binoculars and satellite phone." To Hawkins smiled. "Despite himself, you sound like your mother. Someone has to look after you. You're retired now, remember? I'll be home for breakfast. Love you too. Stay safe." He pocketed the phone, studying the ground, the tracks LED behind a large dune carefully covered, but not quite perfect. Following them, he found the first piece of metal, a section of wing deliberately buried. 20 minutes later, he was staring at what remained of a small cargo plane, methodically hidden in the sand. This wasn't a crash site. This was a burial. The cockpit had been stripped clean, but something caught his eye in the cargo hold, a laptop partially crushed, but intact, and beside it a waterproof case filled with documents. His satellite phone was in his hand before he consciously reached for "Rebecca, it's Hawkins. Remember that favor you owe me from where is James? It's been, 2 years? I need your eyes in the sky. Something's not right out here. You know I can't just Rebecca, there's a deliberate burial out here, cartel plane, but they took too much care hiding it. This isn't their usual style." A pause. "Give me the coordinates." As he read them off, movement caught his eye, a glint of metal on a distant ridge. "Binoculars or a scope? How fast? Can you get me those images?" 20 minutes, maybe 15, make it 10. "I'm not alone out here." He ended the call, carefully scanning the horizon. The figure on the ridge was gone, but he could feel eyes on him. His hand instinctively moved to where his service weapon used to be, finding empty air. Instead, the cargo hold yielded more surprises: bank statements, government letterhead, names he recognized from news headlines. This wasn't just a drug run gone wrong. His phone buzzed again. "Rebecca J. Get out of there now. What do you see?" 3 vehicles approaching from the south, heavy dust trail. They're moving fast. He was already moving, but not toward his horse. The documents went into his saddlebag, along with the laptop. The rest he photographed rapidly with his phone. "How long?" 5 minutes, maybe less. Called Peter Crawford at the sheriff's office. Tell him the crack of a rifle cut through the morning air. Sand exploded near his feet. Tell him I found something. And Rebecca, tell him to bring everyone." The horse spooked at the gunshot, but stayed close enough for him to mount. As they crested the first June, more shots rang out behind him. His mind raced. As they rode the documents, he'd glimpsed the names, the careful burial. This was bigger than drugs. Someone had gone to a lot of trouble to hide this plane, and now they were going to equal trouble to make sure it stayed hidden. Linda words echoed in his head. "You're retired now, remember. But some things you couldn't walk away from. Some truth demanded to be found." The sound of engines grew behind him as he pushed his horse harder. He knew These dunes knew every wash and ridge for 20 mil. He'd need every bit of that knowledge to survive the next hour more. Shots kicked up sand around him, the vehicles were getting closer, but ahead he could see the familiar rocks of Dead Man's Canyon. If he could make it there, his phone buzzed one last time. A message from Rebecca's satellite. Shows more vehicles coming from the east. James, what did you find out there? He smiled grimly as he urged his horse toward the canyon. The truth. He muttered, God help me, I found the truth behind him. The desert erupted with the sound of engines and gunfire as the morning sun climbed. IR in the Arizona sky, Dead Man Canyon lived. Up to its name, the narrow walls rising like tombstones on either side. Hawkins guided his horse through the familiar twists, hearing engines rev and fade as his pursuers searched for another way around. They'd find one eventually, but he needed just enough time to reach the old ranger station. His satellite phone crackled. James, you've got 3 vehicles trying to circle around to the north exit. How long? Until Crawford's people get here? 10 minutes, maybe. More. A bullet ricocheted off the canyon wall. Someone had found a high position. Might not have 10 minutes. The documents in his saddlebag felt like they were burning a hole through the leather. Names, dates, account numbers, enough to bring down people who thought themselves untouchable. He'd recognized Governor Santos's signature on one of the papers right next to shipping manifest that didn't match any legal cargo. The canyon opened into a broader wash. Hawkins spotted fresh tire tracks and pulled his horse up short. Not all the pursuers had gone north. A police cruiser sat blocking the path ahead, its lights off. The uniform behind the wheel wasn't one of Crawford's men. Retirements made you soft. Hawkins, the deputy, stepped out, weapon drawn. Should have stayed on your ranch, Rodriguez. How much they paying you? Enough to retire early. Hand over the documents. More engines in the distance, running out of time. You know what's in them. Don't need to know, just need to deliver. Hawkins shifted in the saddle. You always were a bad shot, Rodriguez. The deputy's finger tightened on the trigger. I won't miss at this range. Neither will I. The crack of a rifle echoed through the canyon. But it wasn't Rodriguez who fired. The deputy dropped, clutching his shoulder on the ridge above. Peter Crawford lowered his weapon. Getting slow in your old age, James. Crawford's vehicles poured into the wash. Deputies spreading out to secure the area. Rodriguez was already in cuffs, cursing in Spanish. Peter, we need to move. More coming from the north. Already handled. State police have the exits blocked. Crawford approached, holstering his weapon. Want to tell me what kind of hornet's nest you kicked this time? Hawkins pulled the documents from his saddle. Take a look. Crawford's expression darkened as he read. This goes high up, higher than you think. Check the signatures. Jesus Christ, Governor Santos. And these account numbers. Hawkins' phone buzzed. Rebecca. James, you need to see these satellite images before the cartel vehicles showed up. There were others at the crash site. Government plates. Crawford looked up sharply. They knew it was they were trying to clean it up before anyone found it, and now they know we have proof. Hawkins took back the documents. This isn't just about drugs anymore, Peter. You need protection. Witness security won't work, not with these names involved. We need to go bigger. FBI, maybe, but carefully. The wrong person gets wind of this. Crawford's radio crackled. Reports of more vehicles approaching from the south, but these weren't cartel black SUVs. Government plates. James. Rebecca's voice was tense. You've got incoming. These match diplomatic security patterns. Someone's called in their insurance policy. Hawkins checked his phone. Multiple missed calls from Linda. Peter, I need a favor. Name it. Get these to Andrea Luna at the FBI, but not through official channels. She worked the Juarez case. We can trust her. What about you? I need to make sure Linda's safe. They'll come for her next. Crawford nodded grimly. Take my car will handle the cleanup here. As Hawkins drove away, he could see the black SUVs approaching in his rearview mirror. The documents were safe with Crawford, but the laptop in his jacket felt like a ticking bomb. Names, dates, accounts, everything pointing to a conspiracy that reached into the highest offices of 2 governments. His phone rang. Linda. Dad, something's wrong. I've been looking into Border Patrol schedules for that sector. There are patterns, gaps in coverage. Someone's been orchestrating blind spots. Linda, listen carefully. Are you at home? No. At the paper? Why stay there? Public places? Only I'm on my way. Dad, what's going on? Remember that story you wanted about corruption at the border? Yeah, it's bigger than we thought. Much bigger. He ended the call as he spotted another black SUV pulling onto the highway behind him. The laptop held more secrets. He was sure of it. But first he needed to reach his daughter before they did in Phoenix. FBI agent Andrea Luna stared at her computer screen, frowning at the Border Patrol logs. The patterns made no sense unless they were deliberate. Her phone rang, an encrypted line she hadn't used since. Goose. Luna. Andrea, it's Crawford. We've got a situation. Remember James? Hawkins, hard to forget what's he done now, found something in the desert, something that's got the governor of Mexico's office very interested. In keeping quiet, she glanced at the patrol logs again, the pieces starting to fit. How high does it go? All the way to Washington. I'm sending you something. Don't log it, don't report it, just be ready to call. Ended. Luna looked out her office window at the Phoenix skyline, remembering Quares, remembering the last time a case had felt this big. Her computer pinged. A message from Internal Affairs, all agents ordered to stand down from border investigations in Sector 712, direct order from Washington. Someone was trying to bury this before it started. Her encrypted phone buzzed again, a message from an unknown number. The plane was just the beginning, follow the money telling. And preparing this story took us a lot of time. So if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. AI Phoenix traffic crawled under the midday sun as Hawkins weaved through cars, constantly checking his mirrors for the black SUVs. His phone had been buzzing nonstop, Crawford warning him about roadblocks, Rebecca tracking surveillance, cameras, Linda sending updates from the newspaper office. The laptop screen glowed beside him as files, decrypted bank transfers, shell companies, all leading back to a series of numbered accounts in Mexico City. But it was the names that made his blood run. Cold Senator Donald Parker's signature appeared on documents authorizing special border security arrangements that perfectly matched the gaps Linda had found. Dad, you need to see this. Linda's voice crackled through the phone. I'm looking at public records. Every time there's a gap in border security, there's a corresponding spike in wire transfers to a development company in Kaloa. Who owns the company? That's just that the ownership traces back to a trust managed by Parker Industries. Senator Parker's family business, the same one won that. Just got a $100 million government contract for border security infrastructure. A black SUV appeared in Hawkins's mirror, different from the other civilian plates. But the driver's posture screamed federal training. Linda, stay where you are. I'm 3 minutes out at the FBI office. Andrea. Luna spread photographs across her desk, surveillance shots from the border, cargo manifest, patrol schedules. She'd worked cartel cases for 15 years, but this pattern was different. Her secure line rang. Luna, Agent Luna. This is Senator Parker's office. We understand you're looking into border security protocols in Arizona. Just routine analysis. This call is courtesy to inform you that those sectors are under congressional oversight. Your investigation is to cease immediately. Under whose authority? National SEC. The order comes from above. The line went dead. Luna stared at the photos. National security didn't usually care about routine border checks. Her computer chimed an email from Rebecca Lou. Satellite records being systematically erased. Someone's cleaning house. Watch your back. Across town. Rebecca's fingers flew across her keyboard. 30 years of satellite images disappearing in real time. But they missed something, a pattern in the deletions themselves. A shadow fell across her screen. She reached for her phone, but a hand caught her wrist. Senorita Lou, the voice was soft, accented. We need to talk about what you saw. Emilio Rivera, cartel enforcement former. Enforcement things change. He released her wrist like finding out the people you work for or working for someone else. The plane wasn't supposed to crash. Was it smart, girl? No, it wasn't. But the pilot got nervous when he saw what he was really carrying, which was evidence, names, account numbers, enough to bring down people on both sides of the border. Rivera's eyes darted to the window. The kind of people who make cartels look like street gangs. At the newspaper office, Linda Hawkins connected more dots. Every major border security contract in the past 5 years had to companies linked to either Parker Industries or subsidiaries of Santos Enterprises. Billions in taxpayer money funneled through shell companies. Her phone buzzed a message from an unknown number. Esto digging. Final warning. Sheriff Crawford's office was unusually quiet when his deputy brought in the morning reports. Border Patrol had gone dark in Sector 712. Again, his secure line rang. Crawford. Peter, it's Luna. I found something. The plane, it matches a flight plan filed 3 months ago. Private charter. Registered to a company owned by Parker Industries. The senator's company gets better. The flight manifest lists Governor Santos as a passenger. A governor and a senator's company linked to a cartel plane. Not just linked, they owned it. And Peter, the crash wasn't an accident. Someone shot it down. A knock at Crawford's door. 2 men in suits, badges, already out. Internal Affairs would like a word. Sheriff in downtown Phoenix. Hawkins finally reached the newspaper office. Linda was waiting outside. Files clutched to her chest. Dad, this goes deeper than we thought. The development contracts, the security gaps, it's all connected. They've been using border security funds to build private infrastructure, landing strip, storage facilities, a parallel border operation private army, private transportation network, all paid for by taxpayer money. Linda's hands shook as she opened a file. And Dad, I know why they shot down their own plane. She handed him a single sheet of paper. As he read, his expression hardened. The pilot, Linda, nodded. He wasn't Cartel. He was FBI deep cover. He must have figured out what they were really using the network for. Hawkins's phone rang. Rebecca James Rivera. Just left. You need to hear this. The plane wasn't just carrying documents. They'd started keeping records, insurance against each other, videos, recordings, proof of meetings between cartel leaders. And a shot rang out the line when dead. Hawkins grabbed Linda's arm, pulling her away from the windows as black SUV appeared at both ends of the street. What's happening? They're not trying to hide it anymore. Hawkins checked his weapon. Now they're just trying to bury it. Along with anyone who knows the safe house hadn't changed in 15 years, Hawkins checked the perimeter while Linda sorted through their evidence on a scratched kitchen table outside Phoenix. Sprawled in the afternoon heat, helicopter rotors, and throbbing in the distance, your mother. And I used this place during the Harrah's investigations, Hawkins explained, closing the blinds. Nobody knows about it except a few old DA contacts, and you trust them. Trust is a strong word, but they hate corrupt officials more than they hate cartels. His phone buzzed. Rebecca James. I'm okay, bullet miss. But they took my servers. Where you safe? Found a friend, someone you should talk to, actually former custom officer named Teresa Gomez, the whistleblower from last year's border scandal. The same. She's been collecting evidence, money trails, shipping manifests, things that didn't add up. Keep her close. Well, a car door slammed outside. Hawkins moved to the window, gun ready. Got to go. Andrea Luna's office had become a war room. Papers covering every surface. Her most trusted agents, the ones she could still trust, worked through financial records and surveillance photos. Boss Agent Wilson handed her a file, found something in the customs data. Every time Parker Industries got a contract, specific border checkpoints went dark. Not the whole system, just certain cameras, certain scanners, targeting blind spots. What came through during the blackouts, that's just it according to official records. Nothing, no crossings, no cargo. Perfect coverage for unauthorized shipments. Luna studied the patterns, gave me everything on Teresa Gomez's original allegations. Already did. Most files are missing, but I found this. He handed her a thumb drive backup copy she made before they fired her at the sheriff's office. Crawford face down, 2 internal affairs investigators, their badges gleaming under fluorescent light. Sheriff explained these unauthorized operations in restricted sectors, standard border patrol coordination without logging the activities. Computer system must be acting up again. Budget cuts. You know how it is. The older investigator leaned forward. We have reports you've been in contact with retired DA agent James Hawkins. Hawkins, haven't seen him in months. Then you won't mind us checking your phone records? Not at all. Soon as you get a warrant. His secure line blinked. Luna's message was brief. Don't trust internal affairs. They report to Parker in Mexico. City Governor Santos paced his office phone pressed to his ear. The plane was supposed to be destroyed completely. Now we have a retired agent with evidence and a reporter asking questions. A voice on the other end was calm. The situation is being handled like you handled the pilot. He was FBI, you idiots. An unfortunate surprise. But remember, Governor, if we fall, you fall. Further across town, in a dingy motel room, Teresa Gomez spread documents across a bed while Rebecca L. copied files. It started with small discrepancies. Teresa explained cargo weights that didn't match manifest, inspection reports filed for shipments that didn't exist. How deep does it go? Billions in phantom shipments, real cargo moving through fake blind spot, all connected to shell companies owned by Parker Industries or Santos Enterprises. They fired you for finding this. Fire me. They tried to kill me. Called it a car accident. Teresa's laugh was bitter. That's when I knew I was right back at the safe house. Linda's laptop pinged. Dad, look at this. Someone uploaded data from the crash site. Looks like audio files. Hawkins plugged in headphones. A man's voice, scared. Testing. If you're hearing this, I'm probably dead. This is Special Agent Marcus Torres, FBI, deep cover. What I'm about to say, God, help me. The network isn't just moving drugs. They're moving people, politicians, meeting cartel leaders, weapons going south. But it's bigger than that. They've built a shadow infrastructure, private armies, private prisons, all hidden behind border security contracts. A knock at the door. Hawkins drew his weapon. James, it's a mellow. Rivera, we need to talk. Linda reached for her father's arm. Can we trust him? No, but right now he's scared, and scared men tell the truth. Rivera's face was drawn. His usual confidence gone. They're moving tonight. Something been coming through the blind spots. But first they're cleaning house. Anyone who knows anything the recordings from the PL. Just to start, they film everything insurance against each other, but now Hawkins is. Phone lit up Crawford James they just tried. To arrest me, official corruption charges Luna. Says they're moving on everyone connected to the case. How long hours? Maybe they're not even trying to be subtle now. Linda's laptop pinged. Again, more files, decrypting dad, these records of shell companies, the contracts. They're not just moving contraband. What else? According to this, they're moving witnesses, people who disappeared after testifying against cartels, against politicians' private prisons. Hawkins muttered. Torres was right. Rivera's phone buzzed. His face went pale. They found Teresa Gomez. Time was running out. Hawkins gunned the engine through Phoenix's back streets. Rivera in the passenger seat, feeding directions. L coordinated from the safe house, using Rebecca's satellite access to track movement patterns. 3rd Street's blocked. Linda's voice crackled through the phone. Police checkpoint, not police. Rivera corrected. Parker's private security. They've got badges, but they're mercenaries. Hawkins took a sharp turn down an alley. Where would they take her? There's a processing center near the border, officially a private detention facility, unofficial, where they make people disappear. At the FBI office, Luna stared at the face on her screen. Agent Wilson, her most trusted team member in surveillance. Photos, meeting with Senator Parker's chief of staff. Checking my background, boss. Wilson stood in her doorway, hand near his weapon. How long have you been working for them? Long enough to know you should drop this case. His smile was cold. They're offering you a deal, early retirement, full pension. And if I refuse, there are worse places than prison. Andrea Luna's hand moved slowly toward her desk drawer. You know what they're doing to people. They've disappeared. I know it pays better than government work. The shot was quiet, suppressed. Wilson crumpled Luna's backup weapon, smoking in her hand. So does life insurance. She hit her panic button, already moving. Within minutes, her loyal agents would secure the building, but first she had to reach Crawford at a desert safe house. Rebecca Lou worked through encrypted files, while Teresa Gomez paced nervously. The offshore accounts are the key. Teresa explained every contract, every shell company. They all lead back to the same banks. Rebecca's screen filled with transaction records, these amounts, billions moving through shadow accounts. Money's only part of it. Look at the property holdings. Rebecca pulled up satellite maps, remote locations, heavy security, no official records, private detention centers, but they're not on any government list because they don't officially exist. Perfect places to make witnesses disappear. A vehicle approached outside. Teresa reached for her gun. You said this place was safe. It was. Rebecca was already deleting files, transferring backups. Time to move. Crawford's truck bounced along desert roads as he headed for the Mexican border. His phone lit up. Luna. Peter Wilson was dirty. We've got moles throughout the bureau. Tell me something I don't know. Internal affairs just tried to serve a warrant at my house. They're moving on everyone connected to the case. But I found something in Wilson's files, coordinate schedules. Something big's coming through tomorrow night. How big? Biggest gap in border security I've ever seen. Every checkpoint dark for 3 hours. Jesus, what are they moving? Or who check your email? Sending you surveillance photos from their detention centers. Crawford pulled over, opening the files on his phone. His face hardened. I know some of these people, witnesses from old cases. They didn't disappear. They were taken back in Phoenix. Linda laptop pinged with an alert. She enhanced satellite imagery, focusing on a compound near the border. Dad, I've got movement at the facility. Rivera mentioned multiple vehicles, heavy security. They're moving her already. No, this is something else. These aren't prison transports. Look more like private military contractors. Hawkins weaved through traffic, heart pounding. Rivera, what are you telling us? Rivera stared ahead. The prison network. It's not just for witnesses. It's an army, private soldiers paid in cash, no records. When they need muscle, they release the prisoners. Only way out is to work for them. Most take the deal. Linda's voice crackled through the phone. Dad, Rebecca just sent more files, account ledgers, transfer records of money. They're laundering. It's not just from drugs. What else? Government contracts, defense. Spending billions in taxpayer money disappeared into shell companies. They're not just running a criminal empire. They're building a private military. Hawkins finished using our own money to do it at the border facility. Teresa Gomez was led through sterile corridors. Hands cupped. A familiar face waited in the interrogation room. Miss Gomez, Governor Santos smiled. We need to discuss your evidence. Problem. Luna's phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Tomorrow night, 3-hour window. Full operation. All assets deployed. She forwarded it to Hawkins. With one addition, whatever they're planning this is that the whole network activated at once and the car Rivera's phone lit up with a message's face. Went pale what Hawkins demanded. They're not just moving Teresa tomorrow night. They're moving everyone, emptying the facilities. Why? Because after tomorrow they won't need to hide any more. Sunset painted the detention facilities walls blood red as Hawkins, and Rivera studied the security patterns. From their hidden position, inside, Teresa Gomez faced her. Interrogators, while across the city, a complex rescue operation was taking shape. 6 guard rotations. Rivera muttered, 2 overlapping patrols, motion sensors on the perimeter. You helped design their security, yes. And I know its weakness. Rivera pointed to a maintenance door blind spot in the camera coverage 20-second window. Every rotation, Hawkins's phone vibrated. Linda, Dad, Rebecca. Just decrypted more your files from. The plane you need to hear this played a man's voice, clearly stress final. Recording the flight manifest was live. We were transporting hard drives, documents. But I saw what was on them videos of meeting senators, cartel leaders, Governor Santos himself. They're not just planning to control the border. They're planning to control everything, the private security contracts, the detention centers. They're building an army. And tomorrow, God, help us all. Static. Then gunfire. The recording ended in the FBI office. Luna assembled her trusted agents' photos and documents covering the walls. Tomorrow night's operation isn't just about moving prisoners or contraband. She explained, look at these documents, private security contracts, all activated simultaneously. And these travel records, 6 state governors, 12 senators, all conveniently out of state tomorrow night. They're clearing the board. An agent realized political assassinations. Luna confirmed, blame it on cartel violence, use it to justify martial law in border states, complete control. Her secure phone buzz. Crawford, Andrea got your message. I've gathered every clean officer I can trust standing by for your signal. How many? 50, maybe 60, not enough. It'll have to be. And Peter watched the news. Linda found something about their media strategy at the safe house. Linda's research had uncovered a pattern. Look at these news stories. She told Rebecca over their secure line, every major border incident in the past year, they knew about them in advance, had the stories written, ready to go. They're controlling the narrative, setting the stage. Rebecca agreed, making people afraid, justifying whatever they're planning. There's more. I found financial records. They don't just own private prisons, they own media companies, politicians, judges, a complete takeover, legal, political, and military inside the detention facility. Teresa Gomez faced Governor Santos across a steel table. You should have stayed quiet, Santos said, almost kindly, kept collecting your paycheck like everyone else. People deserve to know the truth. Truth, Santos laughed. We are the truth now. After tomorrow, we won't need to hide anymore. The border crisis, the violence, all carefully managed. And when the people beg for security, you'll provide it with your private army. Exactly. Order through strength, the American dream properly managed. A guard entered, whispering in Santos's ear. His face darkened. It seems your friends are causing problems. Hawkins and his daughter, the FBI agent, all digging where they shouldn't. They'll expose. You know they'll become examples when the violence starts tomorrow night. There will be many unfortunate victims, including nosy reporters and retired agents in Phoenix. Senator Parker walked into a private club, his security detail scanning for threats. A television played silently in the background. News reports of border violence, carefully crafted, and timed. His phone rang. Is everything in place? All proceeding as planned, Senator. The detention centers are ready, security contracts activated, media coverage prepared, and our opposition being dealt with. Though Hawkins and his group are proving resilient, not you for long. Once tomorrow's operation begins, they'll be irrelevant. Are the targets confirmed? All 6 governors, 12 senators, plus the journalists and activists on the list. Once they're gone, America will beg for security and will provide it. Parker smiled, for a price outside the detention facility. Hawkins checked his weapon as Rivera explained the guard patterns. We've got one chance. At this, the moment we breach, they'll know. His phone lit up. Luna, James, it's worse than we thought. The operation tomorrow, it's not just about moving prisoners. They're planning a purge. Anyone who might oppose them, politicians, journalists, law enforcement, including us, especially us. But if they're willing to kill senators, this goes higher than we thought. Linda's voice cut in on the secure line. Dad, Rebecca found something in the financial records, the money trail. It leads to military contractors, private armies for hire. How many thousands, all ex-military. And tomorrow night, every border checkpoint goes dark, every prison opens while their targets are being eliminated. They'll have their own army on the streets. Hawkins finished, ready to restore order. Rivera's phone buzzed. A text message turned his face ashen. What is it? Hawkins demanded. Teresa's interrogation is finished. They're moving her to the maximum security wing. Why? Because that's where they keep the ones they want to make examples of. When the violence starts tomorrow, a helicopter thundered overhead, searchlight sweeping the ground inside the facility. Alarms began to wail. They know we're here, Rivera said. Hawkins checked his weapon. Years of training taking over. Then, let's not keep them waiting. The detention facilities. Alarm wailed into the desert night as Hawkins and Rivera MB through the blind spot in the camera coverage. Inside, guards rushed to defensive positions, their boots echoing on concrete floors. The rescue operation had begun, but they weren't the only ones in motion. East corridor clear, Rivera whispered, checking corners. Guard station ahead. How many? Usually for all ex-military. Hawkins checked his ammunition. Teresa, exact location, maximum security wing, underground level. But James Rivera hesitated. There's something else down. There's something they protect. More than the prisoners, the evidence room, files, recordings, everything. They use as leverage. All their insurance policies in one place across Phoenix. Luna's tactical team moved into position. Her phone lit up with Crawford's message. 3 roadblocks between us and the facility, all manned by compromised officers. Hold position. She replied, wait for my signal. Her secure line rang. Rebecca, Andrea, I found it. The complete operation plan for tomorrow night. It's not just assassinations. They're planning simultaneous attacks across 5 states. Political targets, law enforcement, journalists, anyone who might expose them. How many targets? Over 200. And that's just the first wave. Once the violence starts, they'll declare a state of emergency, use it to deploy their private security. Exactly, the border states first and expand nationwide. They've been planning this for years. In the facility's interrogation room, Teresa Gomez faced her captors. Governor Santos paced while his security chief made another call. The teams are in position, sir, awaiting final authorization. Santos nodded. And our insurance, the files secure in the vault, though we should consider moving them before alarms cut through the conversation. Santos grabbed his phone, barking orders in Spanish. Linda's voice crackled through Hawkins's earpiece. Dad, Rebecca just sent me the facility blueprints. You've got a problem. They're moving armed teams to the vault level. How many? At least 20 professional operators. And Dad, facial recognition, just eyed their leader, former Delta Force commander. These aren't regular guards. Hawkins and Rivera reached the security door. Rivera's stolen key card blinked green. They'll know we're using this, Rivera warned. Good, keep their attention here. Inside, the main security office monitors showed movement throughout the facility. The security chief pointed to different screens. Teams 1 and 2 secure the vault. Team 3 get the governor to the helicopter. The rest contain the intruders. Sir, what about the prisoners? Santos interrupted. Miss Gomez isn't going anywhere when this is over. She'll be an example of what happens to whistleblowers at the FBI office. Luna received new intelligence. Her blood ran cold. Crawford aborted approach satellite. Shows armed teams at every intersection. They're not just blocking you, they're funneling us into a kill zone. Linda's research had uncovered more players. Rebecca cross-referenced these names: judges, media executives, military contractors, all on Parker's payroll, building their support structure. Rebecca confirmed once the violence starts, these people will control the narrative, justifying the emergency powers and the private security contracts already signed. The moment martial law is declared, Parker's companies take control of law enforcement in 6 states. Underground. Hawkins and Reva encountered their first resistance. 4 guards professionally positioned. James Rivera whispered, these men, I trained with them. Ex-special forces. Weaknesses are they're good, but predictable. Always clear rooms the same way. Hawkins nodded, understanding. When the guards breached, they were ready. The fight was brief. Brutal years of experience versus military training. In the end, experience won. Linda status. More teams converging on your position. But Dad, something's happening above ground. Military helicopters approaching from the south. Parkers contractors. No, these are different. Marked in the security office. Santos received urgent news. His face darkened. How much does Hawkins know, sir? The files from the plane. He has everything: the contracts, the offshore accounts, the assassination plans. Then we accelerate the timeline, start the operation. Now, sir, we're not ready now. By morning, none of this will matter. Luna's Phone exploded with alerts. Crawford, they're moving. Multiple teams activated across 3 states. The assassinations, they're starting early, creating chaos ahead of schedule. They'll blame it on cartels, justify immediate martial law. Rebecca's voice cut in. Andrea, the detention centers, they're releasing prisoners. Thousands of them, all armed, all with military training. Their private army, Luna, realized ready to restore order once the violence starts. Outside the facility, Crawford's clean officers faced a decision. Sheriff, we're outgunned. These aren't regular cops we're facing. Crawford checked his weapon. No, they're traitors. And they're about to learn what real police work means. Underground Hawkins. And Rivera reached the vault. Level bodies of guards litter their path. James, Rivera said quietly, what they have in that vault, it's not just evidence, it's proof of how deep this goes. Military intelligence agencies, how high up, all the way the cartels were just the start. They've infiltrated everything. Linda's voice crackled with urgency. Dad, Rebecca found more files. The assassination team, some of them, are already inside government buildings waiting. How long? Minutes, maybe less. Teresa Gomez, still in custody, heard the gunfire. Approaching. You're too late. Santos taunted. The operation has begun. By morning the country will be begging for security for. Or do you really think people will accept martial law, accept that they'll demand it? Amazing what a little orchestrated chaos can accomplish. The vault door loomed ahead. Heavy steel and electronic locks. Rivera stepped forward. I can open it. I helped design the system. Why are you really helping us? Vera's hands moved over the keypad. Because I saw what was in the plan, what they're really planning. This isn't about drugs or money anymore. This is about control, total control. The vault door opened with a hiss. Inside, shelves of hard drives, documents, and recordings stood in silent testimony, the evidence of decades of corruption ready to be exposed. Hawkins's phone lit up. Luna, James, it's starting. Coordinated attacks across the country. They're moving faster than we thought. How bad? Major targets in 12 cities. Political assassinations, bombings, mass prison breaks, all designed to create panic and justify martial law. Exactly. Parker's private security companies are already mobilizing the moment the emergency is declared. They take control, legal official control. Linda broke in. Dad, you need to see this. Rebecca just found tomorrow's operation orders. This isn't just about the border states anymore. They're planning to expand nationwide. A complete takeover. The facility shook with an explosion above. Santos' voice came over the PA system. I'm afraid this has gone on long enough. The charges are set in 5 minutes. All evidence of our operation will be destroyed along with anyone still inside. Rivera checked his phone, face grim. He's not bluffing. They'd rather destroy everything than let it be exposed. Hawkins looked at the vault full of evidence, then at his phone, showing the chaos spreading across the country. Linda, tell Crawford to move in all of them now. Dad, it's a trap, yes, but it's also our only chance. If that evidence burns, they would. No matter how many people died tonight. The facility trembled again. Time was running out. The truth was herein this vault, proof of the greatest conspiracy in American history, but getting it out alive, that was another matter entirely above them. The sound of helicopters grew louder. The night was about to become very interesting indeed. 4 minutes, that's all they had before Santos' charges turned the facility into rubble. Hawkins and Rivera worked frantically in the vault, copying files, while gunfire echoed through the corridors above. External drives at 80%, Rivera reported. Fingers flying over keyboards, but the security files are encrypted. How long to crack them? Longer than we have. Hawkins's radio crackled. Crawford's voice heavy with gunfire. In the background, James, were engaged with hostile forces at all entry points. These aren't regular cops. We're fighting professional operators, military training. Can you break through? Working on it. But James, something big is happening. Military channels are going crazy. Units mobilizing across the country. Luna cut in on the secure line. It's worse than that. I'm looking at deployment orders. Some military units aren't responding to command. They're following different orders. Sleeper agents in the military. Hawkins checked his watch. 3 minutes. Not just military, FBI, Homeland Security, local law enforcement. They've spent years placing their people everywhere. In Phoenix, Linda coordinated with trusted journalists. Her screens filled with breaking news. Multiple attacks reported across 12 cities, government buildings, police stations, communications infrastructure, all happening simultaneously. Rebecca's voice joined the channel. The prison breaks are spreading. 6 more facilities reporting mass escapes. All the inmates are military trained. Their private army. Linda realized ready to deploy the moment martial law is declared in the facility's command center. Santos watched the chaos unfold on multiple screens. His phone rang. Senator Parker, I assume everything is proceeding as planned, ahead of schedule. Immediate contacts are already pushing the narrative. By morning, the public will be begging for emergency Powers and Hawkins about to be buried with his evidence. Our teams all in position the moment the emergency is declared. We take control legally, officially, and completely in the vault. Rivera found something that made him curse in Spanish. James, these files, the corruption goes deeper than we thought. International banks, foreign intelligence services, they built a shadow government inside the real one. How long have they been planning this? Decades. The cartels were just the start. They used the drug war to build their infrastructure, place their people. Now they're ready to take over completely. Linda's voice cut in urgently. Dad, Rebecca found something. The assassination team, some of them are targeting military bases, taking out officers who might resist. 2 minutes left above ground. Crawford's team faced overwhelming odds. Corrupt officers and private military contractors had them pinned down, but they weren't giving up. Sheriff, his deputy, reported local news is already running stories about cartel violence, calling for martial law. Already the attacks just started. The stories were pre-written. They're controlling the narrative. Luna coordinated with her loyal agents, all FBI officers. Be advised, trust no one outside this channel. Multiple agents compromised. Repeat, multiple agents compromised. Her screen lit up with alerts. More attacks, more chaos, all carefully orchestrated. They're creating a crisis too big for regular law enforcement to handle. She realized, setting the stage for their private security to take over in the vault. Hawkins and Rivera reached the most secure files. What they found made them pause. Mother of God, Rivera whispered. The plane crash, it wasn't just about hiding evidence. The pilot discovered something else. What list of sleeper agents? Hundreds of them. Military officers, federal agents, judges, all compromised, all waiting for the signal. 1 minute. Teresa Gomez's voice suddenly came over their radio. She'd gotten free in the chaos. The evidence isn't just in the vault. Santos keeps copies, insurance against his partners in his office safe. Linda confirmed 4th floor, east wing. But Dad's satellite shows heavy security up there. How many? At least 12 professional operators. Hawkins checked his ammunition. Rivera, get that drive and get out. I'm going up. You'll never make it alone. No choice. If Santos has proof of who's really behind this. The facility shook with another explosion. 30 seconds. Crawford's voice urgent. James, we've breached the outer perimeter, but we're taking heavy casualties. These contractors, they're not just fighting for money. They believe in what they're doing. Soldiers looking for a cause. Rivera said grimly, most dangerous kind. Linda broke in. Dad, Rebecca just decrypted more files. Tomorrow's operation, it's not just about taking control. They're to eliminate everyone who might expose them. Journalists, activists, honest cops, thousands of people. A purge. Luna confirmed complete and total. 15 seconds. Hawkins made his decision. Reva, get that drive to Luna. Linda, tell Crawford to pull back. Teresa, where are you with Santos' files? But James, what I'm seeing here, this goes all the way to the transmission cutoff. As the first charge detonated, the vault shook, dust raining from the ceiling. Rivera grabbed the drive. James, there's no time. Get those files out. No matter what happens, get them out. 10 seconds. Luna's voice crackled through static. Multiple federal buildings under attack. Military responses confused. Some units standing down their sleeper agents. Linda realized, taking control from the inside. 5 seconds. Hawkins ran for the stairs as Rivera headed for the emergency exit above. Teresa Gomez faced what she'd found in Santos' safe. Her hands shaking. My God, they're already in control. Have been for years. The takeover, it's just making it official. The final charges detonated as the facility began to collapse. Multiple crises converged. Crawford's team fighting for their lives. Luna racing to expose compromised agents. Linda broadcasting truth against an avalanche of prepared lies. Rebecca tracking military units suddenly turning against their own government. And somewhere in the chaos, a father trying to reach the proof that could save thousands of lives. Even as the building crashed down around in the night had only begun in Washington, Senator Parker watched it all unfold on multiple screens. A chess master seeing his pieces align. Begin phase 2. He ordered, by dawn, America will have a new kind of government, whether they want it or not. The facility collapsed around Hawkins as he fought his way upward through smoke and debris. Emergency lights cast red shadows through dust-filled corridors while gunfire echoed from multiple directions. 3rd floor access blocked. He reported through his radio, moving to alternate route. Dad, structural integrity is this failing. Linda warned, you've got minutes at most. Teresa's voice crackled through static. James, I've secured Santos' e-files. But there's something else, something bigger. What did you find? This isn't just about America. They've built similar networks in other countries, private armies, Corrupt officials control media. It's a coordinated takeover on a global scale. Outside, Crawford's team faced overwhelming odds. Private military contractors had them pinned down with professional precision. Sheriff, his deputy, pointed to movement on their flank. We've got company. But the approaching figures weren't hostile police units, state troopers, even some military personnel, all responding to Crawford's call for honest law. Enforcement looks like we're not the only ones who want to save our country. Crawford smiled grimly. In Phoenix, Luna coordinated with her loyal agents while monitoring Malari channels, multiple bases reporting confused orders. She relayed some units, standing down others preparing to resist. The sleeper agents are creating chaos in the chain of command. Andrea Rebecca cut. I found their target list. They're not just going after political opponents, military commanders, intelligence officials, anyone who might organize resistance. How many targets? Hundreds, all scheduled. For tonight, the simultaneous attacks are just cover for a massive purge of loyal personnel. Linda worked frantically at her computer, broadcasting evidence faster than Parker's media allies could suppress it. The mainstream networks are already pushing their story. She reported blaming cartels, calling for emergency powers. But social media is still ours for now. Keep pushing. Luna ordered. The truth is our best weapon. Inside the crumbling facility, Hawkins reached the command center. Santos stood calmly, watching multiple screens. A security team alert, but not hostile. It's over, Santos. We have the evidence. The governor smiled. Of what? A criminal conspiracy, a coup attempt, or perhaps something much older. What are you talking about? You think this started with cartels, with border security? Santos gestured to the screen, showing chaos unfolding across the country. This has been in motion, and for decades the cartels were just convenient tools, a way to build our infrastructure, while everyone looked the other way. Rivera's voice came through the radio. James, he's right. These files, they show planning going back 30 years. Military contractors, private prisons, media companies, all being positioned like pieces on a chessboard at the FBI office. Luna received urgent news. Multiple federal buildings being secured by private security forces. They're citing emergency powers that haven't even been declared yet. They're not waiting for authorization. Rebecca realized the chaos is just theater there. Taking control now, Crawford's radio crackled with reports from across the state. Private military forces deploying from hidden bases, securing key infrastructure, communications, transportation hubs. They're not just creating a crisis. He understood they're exploiting one they've spent years preparing for. In Washington, Senator Parker watched the operation unfold. His phone rang. Sir, we have a problem. Some of the evidence survived the facility's destruction. How much? Enough. And Hawkins's daughter is broadcasting it. Our media partners are trying to suppress it. But then we move to phase 3 immediately. Sir, we're not ready. We don't have a choice. Activate all sleeper units. Begin the full deployment. By morning, it won't matter what evidence they have. Teresa Gomez's voice cut through the radio static. James, these files, the private military contractors, they're not just in America. Similar units prepped in dozen countries, all waiting for the signal. A coordinated international takeover. Linda breathed, using civil unrest as cover. In the command center, Santos watched Hawkins with almost paternal disappointment. You still don't understand? This isn't a coup. It's a transition from messy democracy to efficient control. The people will thank us once order is restored. Order through fear, order through strength. The cells taught us that much. At least the building shook again. Support columns groaned. Luna's voice urgent. James, massive military mobilization underway, but command structure is breaking down. Units turning against each other as sleeper agents activate. The confusion is purposeful. Rebecca added, create enough chaos, and people will accept anyone who restores order. Linda broken. Dad, Parker just announced emergency powers. In 6 states, private security forces are moving and taking control of local law enforcement right on schedule. Santos smiled. Chaos, then control, fear, then gratitude. Crawford's teams engaged in running battles across Phoenix as private military contractors secured key positions. They're not just fighting us, he reported. They're setting up checkpoints, communication centers, like they're occupying territory. Because they are. Rivera responded, these contractors, they're not just guns for H, they're true believers. They think they're saving the country from itself. Teresa's voice crackled through James. There's more. Santos' files show another facility bigger than this one, a command center for the entire operation, where that's just that it's hidden in plain sight. A private prison outside Washington, D.C., but it's really the transmission cut off. Another explosion rocked the building. Time's up. Santos announced calmly, the evidence here doesn't matter anymore. The operation can't be stopped by morning America will have the strong leadership it needs. Whether it wants it or not, Hawkins raised his weapon. There are still loyal Americans who resist, of course. That's what the lists are for every potential leader of resistance, every possible rallying point, all scheduled for elimination tonight. Linda's voice desperate. Dad, massive data purge happening across government servers. They're erasing records, communications, everything that could prove what they're doing, and replacing them with their own version of events. Rebecca added, rewriting history in real time outside. Crawford's reinforcements engaged the private military contractors in pitched battles across the city. But for every position they secured, 2 more fell to the professional soldiers. They're not just taking control. He realized they're establishing occupation zones like they planned and rehearsed this for years. They have Rivera confirmed every major city, same tactical approach, take control of key infrastructure, communications, transportation, isolate, and eliminate potential resistance. Luna coordinated with what remained of loyal federal forces. Military chain of command is fractured, some bases going dark, others reporting conflicting orders. It's happening everywhere. At once the facility grown, more support columns failing. James Linda urged, you need to get out of there, the whole structure is going. But Hawkins stood his ground, facing Santos and the truth of what they'd uncovered. This wasn't just a conspiracy. It was the emergence of something that had grown in secret for decades, finally ready to take control. And somewhere in the chaos of that night, the future of a nation hung in the balance. The command center screens flickered as another explosion rocked the failing structure. Hawkins faced Santos while debris rained from the ceiling, each man knowing the next few minutes would change everything. You still think this is about power? Santos asked, oddly calm. About control. This is about survival. Democracy is too slow, too weak to face what's coming, and your private armies are the answer. Order through strength, the cartels taught. As well, Linda's voice cut through their confrontation. Dad, massive data streams being uploaded to government servers. They're not just erasing history, they're replacing it. Can you stop it trying? But wait, Rebecca found something. These uploads, they're coming from somewhere else. The second facility outside Crawford's forces faced a new threat. Military helicopters appeared on the horizon, but not the rescue they'd hoped for. Those aren't regular army. His deputy warned, private military contractors, heavy weapons. How many? Too many. They're deploying across the whole city. Luna's secure line crackled with urgency. Peter, it's happening everywhere. Private security forces is taking control of key infrastructure, but something's wrong with the pattern. What do you mean? These aren't Parker's contractors. Different tactical approach, different equipment. Someone else is moving in at her desk. Rebecca worked frantically to trace the data streams. The second facility, it's not just a command center. It's been running things all along. Parker, Santos, they're just middle management for who Linda demanded working on it. But these protocols, this level of organization, this isn't cartel, this isn't even government, this is something else. In Washington, Senator Parker received an unexpected call. Sir, we have a situation. Our contractors are being superseded by whom I authorized no changes. That's just it, Senator. The authorization came from above you. Parker's blood ran cold. There is no above me in this operation. Apparently there is in the crumbling facility. Santos watched the screens with growing unease. This isn't right, he muttered. These deployments, this isn't our plan. No, Hawkins agreed. You're being pushed aside, just like the cartels. Where Teresa's voice broke through static. James, the files from Santos' office, they show a whole other layer. International banks, private military companies, shadow corporations. They use the cartels to build the infrastructure, use corrupt officials to place their people. But the real power has been waiting to take control. Hawkins finished. Crawford's radio lit up with reports from across the state. Private military forces were deploying with precision, but not the ones they'd expected. These aren't American contractors. Arver confirmed different tactics, different equipment, professional, experienced. In what regime change? Luna coordinated with her remaining loyal agents. All FBI offices, be advised, we're seeing coordinated takeovers of federal buildings, but not by Parker people. Someone else is moving in. Andrea, Rebecca cut, and I found something in the data streams. These aren't just security contractors. They're a private army that's been involved in peacekeeping operations worldwide, always after civil unrest, always ending with puppet governments. Linda's screens filled with alerts. Social media is exploding. People are noticing something's wrong. The official story isn't holding because it's not meant to anymore. Rivera realized their past, pretending now they're just taking control. The facility shuddered again. Support beams groaned. You understand now? Santos asked Hawkins. We thought we were the players, but we were just preparing the way. The cartels, the Corruption, the private prisons, all just infrastructure for what's coming. And what exactly is coming? Order, real order, not through laws or votes, but through absolute control, financial, military, political, all under one authority. Teresa's voice crackled. Through James the First, found at the second facility. It's not just a command center. It's one of many a network of control centers around the world, all coordinating, all waiting for this moment. How long have they been planning this? Decades, using criminal organizations to build infrastructure, using corruption to place agents, using private military contractors to train forces, creating a shadow system inside every government. Linda broke. In Dad, something's happening. Military bases going dark, but not because of Parker's people. These are different orders, different authorization codes. The real players are moving in. Rebecca confirmed. Parker, Santos. They were just setting the stage, creating the crisis needed to justify what comes next outside. Crawford's forces watched in shock as the private military contractor they'd been fighting suddenly stood down, replaced by new units with different insignia. These aren't the same operators, Rivera warned. These are elite units, veterans of regime change operations worldwide. Luna received urgent updates from across the country, the same pattern everywhere. Local authorities being superseded by private military forces, but not Parker. Someone else's. In the command center, Santos's phone rang. His face fell as he listened. Yes, sir, I understand. It's time. He turned to Hawkins. You should have left that plane in the desert. Now, everything changes. The V building structure grown one final time. Dad, Linda urged, you need to get out now. The whole facility is going. But Hawkins stood his ground. Who are they? Santos. Who's really behind this? The future. Santos smiled sadly. A future without the messiness of democracy, without the weakness of law. Pure order, pure control. The people will resist. Some will try. That's why they built the prisons, why they prepared the media, why they positioned their people everywhere. By the time anyone realizes what's really happening, the screen suddenly filled with new data deployment orders, activation codes, protocols, taking effect worldwide. My God, Rebecca breathed. It's not just here, it's everywhere. A coordinated take over on a global scale. The facility began its final collapse as the truth became clear. This wasn't just about America. This wasn't just about power. This was about a new world order, decades in the making, finally emerging from the shadows. And as the building fell, Hawkins realized their real fight was just beginning. Hawkins emerged from the collapsing facility into chaos. Emergency vehicles lit up the night, while helicopters thundered overhead behind him. Santos's command center disappeared into rubble, but the hard drive in his pocket held enough truth to shake the world. Linda, what's our situation? Bad, and getting worse. Private military forces are securing major cities, but they're not Parker's people anymore. These are professional contractors, expert in regime change operations. Crawford's voice crackled through. We're seeing the same thing in Phoenix. Original contractors standing down, being replaced by some kind of elite units, different equipment, different tactics. They're taking control, Rivera confirmed, not just of infrastructure, of the entire operation. Parker, Santos. They were just preparing the ground. Luna coordinated from the FBI officer screens, showing similar patterns nationwide, multiple federal buildings being secured by private forces. But look at their deployment pattern. They're not just maintaining order. They're establishing control zones, communications networks like they've done this before. Rebecca added, I'm finding records of similar operations in other countries, always during civil unrest, always ending with puppet governments controlled by private interests. Teresa's voice joined the channel. The files from Santos's office confirm it. The shadow organization they've been using, criminal enterprises worldwide, cartels, corrupt officials, private prisons, all just infrastructure for their real operation. Hawkins reached Crawford's position as more helicopters appeared. Peter, we need to move now. We're the second facility. That's their real command center. Linda broke in urgently. Dad, something's happening. Social media exploding with reports of resistance. Police units, military bases. Some are refusing to stand down. And the contractors responding with force. They're not even pretending anymore, just taking control outright. In Washington, Senator Parker watched his carefully planned operations slip away. Sir, his aide reported, our security contractors are being ordered to stand down. New units moving, and they're not accepting our authorization codes. Who's giving these orders? That's just it, sir. The authorization, it's coming from accounts we didn't even know existed. Shadow corporations, hidden ownership structures. Luna's team traced financial patterns across international networks. These contractors, she explained, they're funded through a web of banks and shell companies. Same patterns we saw with the cartels, but on a global scale, they use criminal organizations as cover. Rebecca realized built their infrastructure while everyone was focused on drugs and border security. Rivera studied tactical data. On his phone, these new units, I recognize their approach. They've run operations like this in dozen countries, always the same pattern. Create crisis, offer solution, take control. Crawford's forces merge with other resistant law enforcement units, forming pockets of opposition. We're getting reports from across the country, his deputy announced. Police units, military bases, some are fighting back, and civilians starting to realize something's wrong. The official story isn't holding any more. Linda coordinated information flow from multiple sources. Rebecca looked at this. Every time these contractors take control in a new area, same pattern emerges. Key infrastructure, secured communications, monitored movement, restricted. Classic occupation strategy. Rebecca confirmed they're not just maintaining order, they're taking control of every aspect of society. Teresa's analysis of Sanos's files revealed more. The second facility, it's not just a command center, it's part of a global network. Control centers hidden in plain sight, coordinating operations worldwide. Hawkins studied the facility's plans. What kind of defense is heavy security, but designed to look like a normal private prison. Perfect cover everyone avoids. Looking too closely at detention centers, Parker's phone rang with an unexpected call. Senator, a cold voice said, your services are no longer required. The operation has moved to its final phase. Now wait just a minute. This is my operation. No, Senator. You were simply preparing the way as you were meant to. Your role is finished. Luna received urgent updates from across the country. Military chain of command is fragmenting. Some units following official orders, others responding to different authority. They've had people in place for years waiting for this moment, and the contractors, Hawkins asked, moving with precision, taking control of key positions, establishing secure zones like they rehearsed this for years. They have Rivera confirmed this shadow organization. They don't just plan for months or years, they plan for decades. Crawford's radio crackled with reports of resistance, local police fighting back in some cities, military bases refusing to stand down. But these contractors, they're not just prepared for resistance, they're expecting it. Linda screens filled with new data. Dad, look at this, the pattern of takeover. It's not just military. They're securing financial centers, communications hubs, transportation networks, total spectrum control. And the public, Hawkins asked, starting to resist. Social media's exploding with reports, videos. People are realizing this isn't just civil unrest anymore. Rebecca traced more financial connections. These contractors, they're funded through a network of international banks, same ones that helped cartels launder money. It was all preparation, building their war chest for what Luna demanded for this global takeover, using private military forces to establish control. Democracy replaced by corporate authority. Hawkins studied the evidence. They gathered they're not just taking control of governments, they're establishing a new system, entirely private armies, controlled media, monitored populations, a corporate dictatorship. Teresa added, using criminal enterprises and corrupt officials to build their infrastructure. Crawford's forces regrouped, preparing to move the second facility. Hawkins decided that's where we'll find proof of who's really behind this, evidence that can't be buried or denied. It'll be heavily defended. Rivera warned, good means we're going in the right direction. Linda's voice carried urgency. Dad, more deployment orders being issued. These contractors, they're not just securing cities, they're preparing for long-term occupation. How long have they been planning this? According to these files, decades, using cartels and corruption to build their network, place their people, prepare their infrastructure, and now they're ready to take control. Luna concluded, not if we can help it. Hawkins replied, checking his weapon. The second facility, that's where we'll find what we need to expose everything. The team prepared to move as more helicopters appeared overhead. The night was far from over, and the real battle was just beginning in the ruins of the first facility. Sanos's words echoed, the future is already here. They're just making it official. But as Hawkins and his team prepared to strike at the heart of the shadow organization, one thing became clear: the future wasn't set, yet not while people were still willing to fight for truth and freedom. The second facility awaited, and with it the chance to expose the greatest conspiracy in history. The second facility loomed ahead, its prison facade masking something far more. Zister Hawkins and his team approached under cover of darkness, while Linda coordinated their infiltration from her secure location. Security pattern shows a gap Every 12 minutes, she reported automated systems with human oversight professional setup. Like everything else they do, Rivera added these people, they don't make mistakes, they plan for every contingency Crawford's forces engage. Contractor units across Phoenix, drawing attention away from the facility. Heavy resistance in all sectors. He reported these aren't regular operators, they're elite units, probably act special forces from multiple countries, Luna coordinated from the FBI office, monitoring the growing resistance publics. Finally waking up, social media independent news people are seeing through the official story protests starting in major cities. And the contractors' response, Hawkins asked brutal efficiency there. Not trying to maintain peace anymore, they're establishing control inside. The facility's perimeter, Hawkins and Rivera moved silently past the first security line. Teresa, what are we looking for? Command center. Should be sublevel 3. That's where they coordinate everything, deployment orders, communications, data management. Rebecca's voice cut in movement on satellite, multiple vehicles approaching from the north, more contractor units. They're reinforcing. Rivera observed they know we're coming. Linda analyzed data streams from the facility, heavy encryption on there. Communications, but there's a pattern. They're coordinating with other facilities worldwide. This isn't just a command center, it's part of a network. At the FBI office, Luna received urgent updates, military bases reporting confused chains of command, some units following official orders, others responding to shadow authority. Their sleeper agents, Teresa explained, placed years ago waiting for activation. Parker faced the consequences of his role as his office was surrounded by contractor unit. Senator, their commander announced your services are terminated. The operation no longer requires political cover. You can't do this. I built this operation. You built what we allowed you to build. Your usefulness is ended. Hawkins and Rivera reached the security checkpoint. Bodies of guards showed someone had arrived before them, not contractor work. Rivera examined